So today we're going to discuss why have static sites in general. So first thing first, why have a static website? And frankly, if you're a blogger and you use, for example, WordPress or Joomla or whatever you prefer, those are not static websites, those are generated websites. It means that every time a user goes to your server, and you've probably seen it from other videos, so we're not going into technical details, but the idea is that the site is actually doing some stuff using PHP and queries from the database to generate your website, and then it gives out the output. And then the hosting speed becomes really important because, I mean, if a hosting provider doesn't give too much of an ongoing bandwidth, it's just not going to fly really well. And what you want to do, actually, you go to your blog and you do posts and you just post them. Those are not sites that change content too often. I mean, we're talking about blogs, small sites, something that, shopping list or whatever of this kind that you actually don't want to deal with all the technology behind it. If you're running a big website with lots of users and lots of traffic, this might be the static site might not be the best option for you, but I argue that you know what, when once you learn about them, probably you'll find out that it is better because the hosting providers like Netlify and static sites can handle much more traffic because the sites are so lightweight. They're not generated. Basically, it already sits over there. Whatever session is open, the user just grabs the files that present in a browser. There's nothing done on the backend server. And also in terms of hacking, of course, I experienced lots of PHP injections and some domain name hijackings in terms of, well, not hijackings, but SQL query attacks and everything of this kind. It prevented some integrations from my production site. And it's just nasty because, and I completely understand. I mean, you run a website and it has PHP with all of its vulnerabilities, which are getting fixed gradually, but new vulnerabilities are getting found. And then you have, of course, the SQL queries that also you need to secure SQL. And whoever worked with PHP and SQL knows that there is like a whole range of procedures about how to make security proper in those situations. But all you want to do is people to go and see your website. You already wrote the post, you already posted the content, you just set it there. Why it should work on every session that hard? You just need a static site. And there is a solution for that, which costs more money. It's a caching server, which would go and cache your WordPress site and present it as static content. So going through all of those loops in order to have the same thing that you could have in advance in the first place, well, it's not very rational unless you have very specific needs. But I argue that most people that have a personal website or a small business website, they don't need to concern themselves with those things too much. But then comes another problem. Once you start learning about static websites, you see that they are practically impossible for people to generate. I mean, you go inside and you need the atom and you need to use some markdown languages and converters and plugins into some editing software that was intended mostly for JavaScript and the other technologies. And if some that were among all those features, you can add a way for you to do the static website. It's just too hard, right? And actually, I really tried to do it, but then you need to do those command lines, interfaces which would control everything. And I understand in a big company or someone that is very tech savvy, probably it's nothing for them, right? But I don't like it. I was working with Word and VisiWig editors all my life, and switching to a new type of setting doesn't really help me. And also, I don't do just text. I also do lots of screenshots, and I want to see the outline if they apply to the text. I like to post my screenshot and then write about it. It's not really easy, and yeah, in those things. But there is a solution. And this is still in a beta version, let's say it's 0 point something versions, in 0.3 probably. And it's an interesting thing. It's a callback to the past. In the past, you used to run WordPress, and there was a client that you could run on your computer. And basically, you would use the client as a Word editor. And once you're ready, and you wrote your posts and whatnots in an offline setting, once you're ready, you just publish the site. And it was very relevant because there was no internet everywhere like 10 years ago. I just checked all of the static, all of the clients for WordPress, and they're really outdated from the time that public Wi-Fi probably was. It was practically a nonsense, or you couldn't do it in your bus on. It just there was not too much internet during those times, and you would write your website on your computer in offline, and once you're ready, just go click the button and publish it to the platform. And that's exactly what Publi does for us in terms of static websites. So we're going to do just that. So in the previous video, we created this test ireadhelpfiles.com subdomain just for testing. And now we are going to configure our Publi, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, in order to work with that. So we're going to docs, and we're going to the getting started. All right, let's expand it a little bit. All right, and there we have Netlify. Now Netlify is a very simple solution, and I really think so, because I really tried the GitHub pages. Amazon S3, well, it's cool, but it's not very much intended for users. Google Cloud also, registration takes your credit card. Even if they give you stuff for free, they still want your credit card in advance. So same goes for Amazon. GitHub and GitLab, of course, not, but they're not as easy. And of course, the Netlify also provides you the option of purchasing a domain. And also, one of the benefits of hosting on Netlify versus all of the other platforms, well, basically they don't charge money. And if you have a really small website, until you get to a point where hosting should cost money on Netlify, it's gonna be really, really big website that you run over there, and then you have choices, right? But you don't want to do that. But I checked all the other options. I checked all the hosting providers, the top ones that are advertised everywhere. I tried to use WordPress.com and Blogger to see what it would cost me and what kind of flexibility I have in terms of hosting a domain. And it just costs too much, because I paid like $20 or something like this for 2 year subscription over iRead Help Files, and I got free HTTPS. Now, all of the other sites, they provide you with HTTPS, but most of them would charge you money for it, and most of them would like to do some weird stuff to your site, which also involves technical knowledge. While on these, well, on the Netlify, of course, you have all of this help, and it's just very simple. It's a very simple website compared in functionality to others, although not very intuitive one, but we're going to see why in a second.